Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Performance Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Calandrino. I'm CEO of Beyond Commercial. Beyond Commercial is your go-to resource for the latest insights and information in commercial real estate located in Orlando, Florida. Be sure to check out our website for our weekly Monday market update, as well as our latest listings and more. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Bo Barron, a leading figure in the commercial real estate industry. His expertise and experience has positioned him as a thought leader. I have a great bio for him. He's a seasoned commercial real estate professional with extensive experience in brokerage, leadership, and professional development. He has a career spanning 2 decades, and he's worked in various roles, including broker, trainer, and executive, helping firms and individuals achieve their professional goals. He's known for his innovative approach to client relationships, deal making, and leadership, and he's passionate about empowering others to thrive in a highly competitive world of commercial real estate. He's also a sought-after speaker and mentor, sharing his insights and strategies with audiences nationwide. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I should have just said welcome to the show, Bo. That would have sounded like way better.
Oh, no, that was great. I appreciate that. It's nice when people say nice things about you. So thanks for that introduction.
You actually just finished speaking at Massimo Con just recently. Wasn't that like a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, it was just last week.
Yeah.
In fact, we were there right before the Tyson fight, which happened right next door to where the conference was at Texas Live. And so it was a great event. I used to work with the Massimo Group for years, and it was really the first time that my brother Timmy and I, who I do our podcast with, it was the first time we've gotten to speak together at the same event, and it was a blast. We had just a ton of fun.
Wow. So how did you get into commercial real estate, and how did you kind of position yourself to where you are now? That's a great question.
Well, I was born into commercial real estate, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm the third generation of our family to be in the business. So, and my grandfather started as a home builder, and then my dad, transitioned it into commercial development and then to brokerage. So I basically grew up with a father who was a CCIM and a commercial real estate broker. My mom had the residential side. She owned a Century 21 franchise, which at the time I think was the largest one in Kentucky. And so I just grew up in a real estate family, didn't want anything to do with it.
Right.
In fact, when I went to college, I didn't think I'd ever be back. And then I went in the Marine Corps. But once I got in the Marine Corps, it's kind of like life crystallized a little bit. And I started to realize how important family was, and that I did want to work in the family business. And so I started working with my dad the day after I got out of the Marine Corps. And that was at the end of 2004. So it's been about 20 years. I'm getting old. And yeah, so I basically just learned from my dad and
yeah. There's not many. I actually was president of CCIM Central District here in Florida. Florida's actually has 7 or 8 districts. I should know this. 8 districts, and we are the largest district in Florida. But my vice president was Hunter Strickland, and his dad Blaine was a CCIM, and then Blaine's dad Wilbur was a CCIM. So like he was like a 3rd generation CCIM,
That's right.
which I thought was like really kind of cool. So
I remember when Hunter got pinned. That was a big deal to have like the 3rd generation.
Yeah.
My grandfather took CCIM courses, but he never got the designation. Which would have been, that would have been cool. But I got to coach Hunter when I was a coach at the Massimo Group. And of course, I was a coach with Blaine. I got to overlap a little bit with Blaine when he was still an instructor at the CCIM Institute. I've been an instructor for about 5 years now. And so we overlapped for a couple of years. But I've known the Strickland family for a lot of years.
Yeah, Hunter and I are still really close and text each other. We both have young kids, and our kids were at the same daycare for a little while. And then his dad was my coach for a while. Okay. And because he was able to kind of like help me start my brokerage and kind of figure that out. And that was pretty cool. Like what I love about CCIM is just like how great of like a community
Oh,
It
yeah.
is for, for those that are listening, is the CCIM is a designation you can receive as a commercial real estate professional. It's not just exclusive to brokers. You can actually be a banker, but you have to take a number of different courses and then submit your portfolio of experience, and then also have people speak to your ethics. And so it's just a really great giving like community. And so, yeah, but that's cool that your second generation CCM could have been third, but
That's right.
yeah.
Close. In fact, my dad, the week I started with my dad back in 2004, he put me in my first CCIM course the very next week. I didn't have a license. I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And found myself in CI 101. So it was right from the jump. CCIM has been a part of my experience and a huge part of helping me grow in the business and understand really what's possible. And as somebody who I literally knew nothing, it gave me a big shot of confidence right off the bat, which helped in a ton of ways.
I'm much more pushy about that with my team now. Like, I used to say, you should do it. And now it's just like, no, this is your anecdote. Like, this is like, you have to do this. Like, if you want to go somewhere else and you want to be with mediocre commercial, not beyond commercial, because like beyond commercial, we're like next level, then, you can do that. But now it's become like a must. I, unfortunately had to let someone go from the team because they aren't doing those things. And I just don't want people that aren't going to subscribe to excellence, because I feel like that's my brand, and you're either going to get on the bus or not.
So. Yeah. My dad was really the same way. Like, he made me create a resume. He had me interview for the job like he wasn't going to hire me. But as a condition of my employment was I had like 5 years to get the designation. And so it was just part of the deal. It wasn't you should do this. Like you said, it was you're going to do this. It's part of the deal. And,
no, I've learned some. Like, I've learned some over my experience now with my brokerage. And, I've been having team members really only for 5 or 6 years, but I've learned that I got to have everybody on the same professional growth plan. I really have to have people growing, because you're not moving forward. It's So but I've definitely learned a lot.
Sure.
How has your perspective on the commercial real estate industry evolved over time now that you have a couple decades under your belt?
At first, commercial real estate was just kind of the family business. I live in a small town called Owensboro in Kentucky. Population, I round up and say we've got 100,000 people. So I learned small town commercial real estate from my dad, he's still alive. He is off the charts when it comes to emotional intelligence. So like when he's talking with people, he's just a wizard, can really connect with folks. And so that's not my natural gifting, but I learned business that way. And then when I started going through the CCIM curriculum, it's like it opened up real estate to me, what some of the possibilities are. And being in those courses and connecting with people across the country, when you're in class with them, gave me a little bit of a bigger perspective on, how we could take the business in different directions. And then in 2008, 2009, we franchised with SVN. Back then it was still called Sperry Van Ness, SVN now. What that did was it put me in, there were about 120 offices across the country at the time, but I started to build relationships with like big city commercial real estate brokerage companies. And that further expanded like my view of what the industry was. And so I started out as a broker. My dad was also an investor, so he owned commercial real estate. And so I've kind of gone on the journey from starting in brokerage to now I own the brokerage company, but also going from the seat of a broker into more of an investor. Now, I lead the commercial real estate company, but I really don't do the deals anymore. We've got producers here in the office, and my job is to help them succeed. I'm really more of an investor than anything else. And so over the last 20 years, I've come to the point where I'm convinced that regardless of the type of market we're in, whether it's we're in the up cycle or down cycle or wherever we are, there's opportunities in every market if you have the insight and the experience and the tools to find them and know what to do with them once you do. We're in an industry that's just full of possibilities. It offers freedom. It offers growth. It offers wealth. If you can, stay out of the ditches and, not step on any landmines and make some of the mistakes that a lot of people do sometimes, like just completely over leveraging themselves or taking risks that they really don't understand. And it was interesting.
I had a coffee this morning with, I met this attorney playing poker. Oh, go ahead. It broke up for a second. I didn't know you were still talking.
No, go ahead.
No, I was having coffee with an attorney that I met playing poker like a decade ago. And then I helped her buy a building a few years ago. And she lost power at her house. And she said she went to her building and she was there with her husband. They're putting all their food in their fridge because like their building still had power. And she said she like walked in like out and like she's like, this is my building. And then I'm actually meeting with her now, like, because she's like, all right, do I keep this building and make it an investment and buy another building, or what should I do? And I said, hey, let me chat with your financial advisor. And she's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to do an intro and you guys figure it out and tell me what I need to do. And I'm like, oh, it's like my perfect like client. But it's even though it's very analytical, I think when you're able to kind of transform people's lives and help them to grow their portfolio or acquire commercial real estate, it's just like a really cool thing. It can be emotional, like, and create, joy for people in their lives if it's the right choices.
Yeah. I think and you've probably heard this a lot, but that, residential is very emotional and commercial is very logical. I don't think that's true at all. I think everything is emotional, whether we admit it or not. And I heard, back in my SVN days, there was a guy named John McDermott who's with them. And I remember he always used to say, people only do commercial real estate transactions for two reasons. They either have a problem they're trying to solve or they see an opportunity they're trying to take advantage of. And so in our business, all we're trying to do is help people solve problems or take advantage of opportunities that they see. And that's really, when you boil it down, what we do in brokerage. And so you'll hear people say, we're in a relationship business. Some people will say, we're in the information business. Both of those things are true. Like we're building relationships with people and we're valuable because of the information and the skill set that we have, but we're really just trying to help people solve their problems or take advantage of opportunities, which is what you're talking about with that attorney. Like she's like, look, I own this building. Like, what other opportunities could I be missing? You guys go figure it out and tell me what to do. You're trying to help her take advantage of opportunities. And you're right. That's a great client to have.
Oh, I mean, I just love it when you built that trust with them, that it's just like, I'll bring you in with my business banker, my CPA, my financial planner, their consortium of professionals, their insurance. I think there's a core team that should surround every entrepreneur, like investor, and those people should be like the best of the best, and you should be like in lockstep with them. But like, I love it when the client can kind of like let me collaborate kind of directly with them. And then we can kind of go back to them and say, hey, this is what we're thinking.
Yeah. Now think about this from the other angle though. If you're a broker, those are the strategic relationships that you need. Like the other professionals in that ecosystem surrounding investors and prospects and clients, like their CPA, their financial planner, their attorneys, the commercial lenders, those are we all have the same clients. And if you can build relationships with those type of connectors and influencers, it gives you a great opportunity to not only just like when we're prospecting and going after folks, but, and if you can get a warm introduction from somebody's CPA, like it's like they're sharing the trust that they've built with the client with you right off the jump. And instead of a cold call, it becomes a very warm introduction. But we used to spend a lot of our time and still do to a large extent, but in a small town, you kind of build those relationships and then they remain. But we'd spend a lot of time building those relationships with those connectors. And it's incredibly valuable to get new clients off of those relationships.
Absolutely. I mean, and I forgot to mention staffing companies. Someone's marketing firms and their legal counsel. I mean, you get to, so first of all, like I get a lot of referrals from those people because I built those relationships. But if I have a new client within the, maybe not the first intro call, because I mean, that's just like, I'm sitting there, like, it's almost like the paperwork at the doctor's office. I mean, like, this is a bit too much. Like, first of all, I'm just trying to figure out what problem I'm trying to solve and like figuring that out, what their budget is, who's making the decision, what do they need, what's their time frame. But then, in a short succession, who are those people? And then let me get to know them. And because also, too, if you don't know them, they might come back to them with another broker and you've kind of lost control of it.
Sure.
And you've gotten through the pitch and then all of a sudden, no, my financial planner recommended this. And so I feel like you have more control, and then you can also get more referrals and save yourself a lot of work. And you of course, have been a coach. So you're just saying that, but that's how I built my business, was just like a lot of those relationships. So. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, speaking of, I mean, I guess we've talked a little bit about it, but do you have anything specific that you find is helpful in building those strong relationships with clients, and maybe like within the culture of your firm and within your team? Like, are there any things you want to talk about there?
Yeah. Have you heard of the book called Building a Story Brand?
Yes.
So it was written by this guy named Donald Miller. And he makes the case in that book that any business, any small business, should take the role of the guide and allow your client to be the hero. And so a lot of us make a mistake by trying to play the hero in somebody else's story, and you end up being in conflict with them and stuff. So a lot of the way we try to build relationships is to position ourselves as the guide and really just focus the entire relationship on the other person, on the prospective client. And so we're trying to demonstrate that we understand who they are, what they're going for, using language like, man, I've served a lot of clients who've gone through something like this. I know exactly where you're at, or, I've leased space before. Like, I get it. I understand how frustrating this can be, just demonstrating that empathy. And I don't think you can do that too much, while also demonstrating that you have some authority. You don't need to do this as much, but whoever you're working with needs to understand that you're good at what you do. And so you need to check that authority box. A lot of people overcook that, I think, and make a mistake. But as we're trying to develop relationships, whether it be with strategic partners like we were talking about before, or just with new prospects and existing clients, we're trying to make sure they're always the hero and we're always playing the guide, just so that, and they understand that we're all about them. We're trying to help them get to where they want to go. We're trying to help them solve the problem that they're trying to solve. And anytime things generally go south, it's because we forget and we start playing the hero and we start making everything about us, and we're talking about ourselves too much and all that. But if you can play the role as a guide, everything becomes easier. But it also just allows you to build more relationships, and that leads to new business and more business and repeat business. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at CREI Summit, we had JJ Abrams.
Oh, yeah. JJ spoke there.
The
no,
Is
it's
it right,
JJ. JJ Peterson. Is it Peterson?
Peterson, I think. Yeah. And he made some recommendations too to read Unreasonable Hospitality. So I'm reading that right now, which is really good. But he was talking a lot about different movies. And at the end of the day, it's like Yoda's the guide.
Yep.
Who makes the other person the hero. And I like to use the analogy that, like, I'm a Sherpa helping you get up the mountain and like educating you so you can make the best decision, possible. I do love it.
That's the exact idea. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, but I do think that it does take some practice, like, because if you haven't been that way and you're doing things more the traditional way, like, I'm a broker, I'm going to get you the space and and not like making them as much of a part. I think shifting that mindset, it takes some practice, but then it becomes a little bit more natural, to do. And it's probably something you have to do with your team even. Do you do role playing and stuff with them?
We do sometimes, but we just talk about this a lot. So in all of our marketing, we're trying to display empathy and play that role as the guide. And here's the issue. Like, so many of us like we're generally in sales in some way. Everybody's selling something. And we, it's like we just want, like, we're our own favorite subjects. Like, I love talking about myself. Nobody knows me better than me. And I love to talk, and everybody's kind of that way. And so you have to train yourself not to do that near as much and to make the conversation about the other person. So we talk about that here a lot, just making sure, look, we need to check that authority box, but man, it's all about the client. And, JJ, I got to meet JJ, years ago when we went to a Story Brand conference down in Nashville with Donald Miller. And he was a part of that. Just a neat guy, really neat guy.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool that we got to have him at CREI Summit. So, yeah, I mean, one thing I think has made it easier for me to listen is like having the podcast, and I've gotten more comfortable just like sitting and listening, because I maybe used to just keep talking and talk too much.
Well, it's easy to do. It's certainly easy to do, especially all of us who are in some sort of service environment.
Yeah.
It's like we just hate that silence and dead air. But yep, I get it.
Do you think what kind of trends do you see happening in commercial real estate do you see anything specifically in your market, and what asset classes do you guys cover? Or you're a full service firm, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're a small company, so we'd be a boutique firm. Yeah. But yeah, in a market our size, we specialize in the geography, and we will do just about anything, if it's a good fit, at least.
Right.
But as far as trends concerned, our town of Owensboro is pretty interesting, and it's so everybody kind of thinks we're unique, but consider this: where I live, we have no interstates or highways that go by us. All the highways, everything ends here. So we're on the Ohio River. North of us is floodland in Indiana. You have to come here on purpose or you're lost. You don't just drive by. And so we're not a good distribution area at all, even though, we're 2 hours north of Nashville. I can get to Louisville, Nashville in 2 hours. In 3.5 hours, I can be in Indianapolis, St. Louis, Cincinnati. We're kind of in that part of the world, but our industrial footprint's less than 5 million square feet in the entire town. Like, that's all we've got.
Wow.
So we do a lot of owner user stuff. It's a probably 80% of the deals that we do are owner user. And so we're working with small businesses and tenants. We do a lot of leasing. But it's basically people who are, they need a spot for their business. And the other 20% is investment stuff, but we really serve our clients and take them where they want to go. And so if they want to look at multifamily, we'll help them do that. If they want to invest in single tenant net lease, we'll help them do that. But it's a very, very owner user. Our average deal size is probably $750,000 to $900,000. Like that's the singles and doubles we hit all year long. And because of how you have to get here on purpose, it's a very, very insulated and stable place. So we don't boom, we don't bust. It's very, very slow, steady growth. It would be best described as boring and stable. So that's how I'd call it. I love it here. Don't get me wrong. I've lived here my entire life, except for college and the Marine Corps. I love raising my family here. I'll be here forever. But it is a boring and stable place, especially in the commercial real estate market. And so the opportunities here are really just when you can find, when you're dealing with mom and pops and a lot of owner users, the gap in their market knowledge tends to be fairly wide.
Yes.
Like they don't pay a whole lot of attention, and they tend to focus too much on occupancy as opposed to market rent. And so a lot of the opportunities that we've found over the years is we've got somebody that's kept their 20,000 square foot strip center occupied and full for years and years and years, and they don't realize that they're $8 below market rent. And so when you can find one of those properties where, you can buy it from them, they're happy to finally exit the deal, and we're happy that now we can get these to market rent and make this, in 18 to 24 months, significantly more valuable. Those are kind of the opportunities in our kind of market, regardless of whether it's retail or industrial or office. Office is just fine in a market like ours. When COVID hit and we went home, we were all back at the office in like 2-3 months. We don't have the big downtown that's 40% vacant still. And we don't have the big corporate international users of office space. It's just a bunch of small town kind of companies. So it's a little bit different than we. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But it's a little bit unique. It doesn't trend with the rest of the country. And so when I go teach, and I was teaching in Seattle a couple of weeks ago for the CCIM Institute, and downtown Seattle has a lot of vacancy. So does Portland when I taught there, and the larger markets seem to, in a lot of ways, be markedly different than what I see every day doing business here.
Well, I think you're seeing a lot from the West starting to kind of like migrate more like Texas, Florida, otherwise, and move their businesses. And so, I think that's attributed. But, overall, even, our downtown, I think with COVID, if you were a larger, city and you had suburban areas to move towards, we're seeing that even in Orlando, where we have a lot more vacancy in the central business district than we did before, COVID. And there is a proclivity for people to be in one of my favorite towns in all of Central Florida is Winter Park. I do a ton of, I got 3 new deals in Winter Park yesterday. It's just, but the vacancy rate is like 3% for office. So it's like musical chairs. And someone's asking me, I need this space. And I'm like, oh, I know somebody, but this is not even on the market. I already know who's about to move, and it's almost just like moving people around. But we are seeing more, vacancy, in the central business district.
We started an investment fund earlier this year called Hearthstone Capital. Me and a couple buddies of mine, and we're looking to invest in other people's deals. So it's kind of a fund of funds. But what we look at is we love the South. We'll take a look at deals anywhere but California, Illinois, and New York, just because we like business-friendly areas.
Yeah.
So basically that means we love Texas, we like Florida, we like Tennessee, we like the South and the Southwest. But the markets that we look at, almost universally, they're the ones that have job growth. If there's job growth, you have population growth. If you have population growth, you have more demand for all types of space. I mean, it's literally that simple. And so if you show me a market with job growth, I'm instantly interested, and then we'll go to work doing our due diligence on the market. But it really all centers around job growth. People create the demand for space. That's it. And so if there's more people, there's more demand for space. And then really the only way you get more people is to have more jobs. And so any kind of big job announcement, that catches my attention. And then we'll start to drill in and see if we can find opportunities in those markets. But yeah, we love Florida because of that. I mean, you just keep gaining more people. So there's more demand for space. And it's really that simple.
I am seeing some, what do you call it, interstate kind of movement, where people are considering, whether it's another location or like moving over to here versus different areas. Because, you got Orlando, Ocala, like in Lakeland are like the most like high and dry places, or don't really, if we have a hurricane, it doesn't really, it degrades so much by the time it gets inland. So we're seeing a lot of growth in Florida, central, more like interior, which is really, interesting. So, I mean, Orlando really wasn't that cool 10 years ago. Now, we have a performing arts center, we have a soccer team, we have it's really cool. So we have kind of a commuter rail, like the beginnings of it. It's supposed to get better. We're just starting to kind of come into its own. So
Sure.
yeah.
And that's all because of population growth.
Yeah.
Like all of it is because more people are going there. And so, yeah, we pay a whole lot of attention to those migration patterns and those big job announcements and those kind of things.
Although it is funny, people who've been here for a really, really long time in Central Florida, they're just like, it's too busy. We have too many people here.
Oh, yeah. Well, imagine where I live. Okay. So I told you, you have to either get lost or come here on purpose.
Right.
It's also true that most of the people that live here have never lived anywhere else. Okay.
Right.
So when I was in the Marine Corps and I got stationed in California, like that's when I learned what traffic was.
Yeah.
I moved back here after 5 years in the Corps and, people are complaining about 10 minutes worth of traffic. And I'm like, oh, you don't have any clue. But it's when you live in a place and you remember what it was like and you liked it that way, people change things and population growth changes a lot of those things. And so I'm not surprised at all that you hear that kind of sentiment in the Orlando area.
Oh yeah. I mean, so many of the roads, it was like a 2-lane road to get to Disney on the back roads, back in the day with hardly any lights. And
I remember
it was so different. Yeah. It was so different. And I'm actually from originally St. Johnsbury, Vermont. And I don't even know if there's 1 million people in the state of Vermont. So, I would have to almost like look that up. But, whenever I go up there, I'm like, oh, I can just get wherever I want to go. It's just so easy. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, in Kentucky, we have more barrels of bourbon in the state than we have people. And so some might say that we have our priorities correct, but, we don't have a lot of people here either.
Oh my God. We only have in Vermont, I thought it was like 500,000. It's 647,000 approximately.
In the whole state.
And that's only because it's grown a little bit because a lot of people did end up moving, were able to work up there and stuff. So,
wow.
So my podcast is obviously all about growth and having like a growth mindset. Like, what do you do specifically to develop your mindset to like stay focused and motivated and keep like more of a growth mindset? Do you have any like tactics that you deploy or different things that you do?
I think about this constantly and I think that's natural for me. I think I'm just wired that way. I don't know if it's a tactic that I've developed over time, but I've always, I think just personality wise, thought forward. So I'm always trying to find possibilities or connect dots moving forward and have always been that way. But, look, I've got a leadership coach. We talk about this all the time, just having a growth mindset. I've structured our companies so that they grow without me. Like that's the ideal. I'm trying to create self-managing companies so they grow without me, which gives me the opportunity to experience more freedom and continue to grow. And that's all about creating teams. And so, when, our brokerage looks like this, I lead it, but I don't do deals. I help my guys find and win business. And we've got an administrative staff of we call our property manager a tenant concierge. But she's in place. And then I've got an executive assistant who's in the Philippines. Her name's Alice, and she's wonderful. But Alice's job on the brokerage side is she does all the marketing and all the contracts, all the paperwork. And so we use an application called Notion. Have you ever used Notion or heard of Notion?
I have not heard Notion, but I've heard good things about it.
Okay. So what I did was I gave her all our docs and I said, look, I need you to create templates of listing agreement, lease, all this stuff. And in Notion, create a worksheet for it. And so the way it works is, my top producer, Todd Humphreys is his name. He'll get an opportunity for a new listing. And so he'll go into Notion, fill out a worksheet that just gives all the information that Alice needs to create the listing agreement. And 30 minutes later, he's got the listing agreement. He didn't have to do any of it. When he needs a lease, he fills it out, LOI, addendum to whatever. There's templates for everything. It's all systematized. He goes in, fills out that information, and then Alice creates the thing, whatever it is, sends it back to him. They might iterate a little bit on it just to make sure everything's correct. And then in the meantime, he gets to stay on the phone. He gets to stay in front of people, have meetings, service clients. And so we're set up so that the very least amount of time is required from our producers doing any kind of paperwork or administrative work. We've just got a team member whose job it is to do that stuff. Personally, like Alice is her main job is my personal assistant. And so, everything from travel to my calendar, matter of fact, I'm not allowed to touch my calendar anymore. She handles it all. Like she scheduled everything with you for this. She schedules my haircuts, my date nights. She's got access to all my credit cards, all that stuff. She books my travel, all of that. So it frees me up to do the things that I'm uniquely qualified to do, the things that drive the most value for me and the future of my family and our company and the people that work here. The more time I am freed up to think and work on our future, the better off everybody does. And so her job is to free me up to do that stuff and handle all the things that just bog me down in the details, which is a terrible place for me to be, is in the details. And just as far as a growth mindset, just the presupposition or the foundational belief that it's possible for everybody all the time to do better. Like it's possible. And you don't have to lose for me to win. Like we can all win. The pie can just continue to get bigger. And if you start from that place, then, man, it's so much easier to be collaborative. In fact, I'm working on a couple, I mentioned that investment fund. That grew out of a place of collaboration and a place of dreaming about the future. I called a buddy of mine. His name's Brad Arns. He lives in Phoenix. I called him up and I was like, hey man, if we weren't held back by anything, what could we do? Like what's missing out there? What could be fun and lucrative and exciting and big and also protect our bandwidth? Like what could we create if nothing was holding us back? And so we just dreamt about that for a while. And that investment company, that investment fund grew out of that. I had another conversation with a buddy of mine who's in the marketing space. And I'm like, look, man, you're great at this marketing stuff. Great at it. Commercial real estate is bad at it. What could we create if we did? And so we're creating a program for commercial real estate brokerages to just level up when it comes to marketing. Well, I would never do that on my own. And so this idea of collaboration is where a lot of the exciting ideas, at least in my life, are coming from these days. And you can't do that if you don't have a growth mindset. If you don't believe it's possible to grow the pie for everybody to win, you're not going to collaborate. You're going to want to keep everything close to the vest. You're going to want it to just be all about you and what you can do, because if I bring somebody else in, I'm going to have to give up some equity, or I'm going to have to give up some of the profits or the potential future. But no, man, and I know you believe this, but man, together, everything can just be better and bigger. And so that's kind of how I think about the growth mindset, I think, but
it's
I don't know if that answers your question.
I'm working with a personal branding coach right now. And he says, it seems to me that you're working with these small business owners just to make them bigger and better. And I'm like, yeah, like I do have that belief. And it's interesting. I do a lot of work with owner occupants. And again, you talked about like the gap, but I do talk about a lot of the different things that I do and how I run my brokerage or how I stay efficient and different things I do. I've had people DM me sometimes like, why are you sharing all this? What if someone in your market is reading this and then they're copying me? And I'm like, well, great. They can be successful. Just because they're successful doesn't mean that I can't be successful. Like the people that are going to vibe with me are going to come to me, like, and if we don't vibe, sometimes I meet someone and I'm like, we're not the right fit. And like, they can go work with, someone else, and that's totally fine. And no offense. I mean, I'm on the hunt for another agent right now because we are blessed with, an incredible amount of work, and, we'll find that right person. But no, I do agree, and the more you foster the growth mindset and the more you have the belief that there's plenty for everyone, that will really amplify.
And even with competitors, like even with competitors, if everybody levels up, then you're challenged to grow more yourself. Everybody wins,
Yeah. I had coffee with a competitor, and she's like, they shared with me, I'm not gonna say it was a he or she or who they were, but like we like kind of like, and they're like, oh, well, we're deploying traction again. I'm like, yes, I need to do traction again. And then we're like, let's talk in Q1 about how traction is happening. And we're like competitors, but like we often do deals together. Sometimes they're on the landlord side and I'm on the tenant side, and we flip flop and, all the things. But no, I think I do agree with you. And I like when you keep talking about freedom. What my thought to myself is that when I find that I have more freedom and more space, and I create more space to think, I really find that it fosters more creativity.
Sure.
And I think of different ways to handle a problem that maybe I still do deals, but I figure different ways to do deals or different things that I am working on. So I do think freedom is so important. Yeah.
Yeah. And, to me, I'm learning how to handle freedom well. I'm not that great at it. Like Saturdays are hard days for me. Like I want to be doing something. It's hard for me to just rest and recuperate and kind of renew my mind kind of thing. So one of the things we try to do is, like, I've got 3 kids. They're 22, 18, and 15. So I've got one that's about to graduate college and 2 that are still in high school. And last year we started doing this thing where I'll take them each on a trip once a year. And so they plan it, I pay for it, and then we go do something together. And so my oldest son, we went on a golf trip. My middle son, we went to New Orleans to see the Giants play the Saints last year. My daughter, I took her to Lollapalooza in Chicago this summer, which I will never do again. But she had a blast. But the idea is, like, because I'm an entrepreneur and because we've been able to have a certain amount of success, like, I want to take the opportunity and the freedoms that I have and pour it into the relationships that are most important to me. And so I want to create these experiences and these memories with my kids while I can, before they've got their own families and stuff. I want to pour into that so that they know I'm always a safe place for them. So they know that I'm in their corner regardless. And so that when things get hard, we've got this foundation of trust and shared experiences and just doing things on purpose helps me take advantage of some of the freedoms that we have, as opposed to just reacting to things all the time. And so I'd say, and anybody in commercial real estate, you're essentially your own CEO, whether you're an independent contractor at your firm, Amy, or whether you own your own business. Like, approach things with intention, do things on purpose. And when you can do that, even though life always gets a vote and it'll always try to knock you off, doing things with intention is the way to continue to grow all the time. And that's what I try to do with our kids or our business or my relationship with my wife and any of the things. If I can approach those things with intention and on purpose, everything just seems to work out better, and we can certainly grow on purpose.
I love that. I really do. Yeah. And I think the more time you're spending with, like, your loved ones, my 4 big pieces are faith, family, fitness, and finance. And especially if the first 3 are put, then the finance kind of all comes into place. But I always have to think of, like, what is going to be best, like building our legacy and the family and the different types of things. And like I have been working really hard. My kids actually say their favorite things is our vacations, like not a toy. And they're 3, about to be 5, but they're like, it's all the memories that we're making and the things we get to do. And I think those are so impactful. So kudos to you. So, but I can't believe we've been chatting for a while. So we actually got to kind of land the plane.
All
So anything else you want to chat about? I think this has been a great place to kind of end.
Oh, no, I just appreciate you having me on, and I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I see you online, like on social media. So I see you on the golf course. I see you in the gym. I see you cooking dinner and stuff. So it's great to get to spend some time with you.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, how you do? I have a weird schedule. Wednesdays is my long day. Like I work from 7 in the morning to like 8 at night. So I can do early mornings and lates with clients and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the other days, like Tuesday, I only work like 9 to 3. But I figured it out. And then I have a house manager that's like 8 to 1 every day now. And like she manages like everything, taking my car to get serviced, taking the dog to the vet, getting the dog groomed, taking the dog on the walk, so many different things, and has all my credit cards, all the different things. And that just frees me up to just kind of like run and just.
And that's a great example of just doing things with intention and building a team of people who can help you multiply your time and do things on purpose more. And I love that. Yep.
And then God forbid my kids are sick. Part of the job description is I'm not going to be home with my kids sick. I mean, if I want to, if I have like an easy day and I can, like I obviously want to canoodle with my children as much as I can, but sometimes they're the babysitter too. So no, I love it. So this was great. So how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Yeah, you can find me online. LinkedIn's a great place. Bo Barron. Our company is Barron Commercial. You can find us at barroncommercial.com. My brother and I do a podcast where I teach him commercial real estate. He's an actor and a comedian. He's 10 years younger than me and a complete goofball. And so we just try to make things entertaining. And so that's interesting dynamic. But our podcast is called Commercially Speaking, and you can find us on YouTube or any of the social media platforms or any places that you find podcast episodes. So yep, those are the best ways.
Do you drop?
Every Monday, new episode every Monday. We're getting close to 80 episodes, I think. And man, that's been so much fun. This is our studio right here in an old bank vault in our office. So, yep.
I'm going to speak it into intention. It's kind of scary with everything I have going on, but I'm going to increase the cadence of the Performance Mindset podcast to weekly next year.
Oh, great. I think you'll I think you'll see a lot of growth out of that. Just putting more stuff out there and having that regular cadence. So I think that'll help a lot. But
I'm ranking really well, and I have a really good listenership every 2 weeks. But he says people can't really make a commitment. They want to know that you're coming like every Wednesday. And so starting January, it's going to be a weekly thing. I'm kind of freaking out, but it's good.
Great.
Because, but I have to push myself. Growth is uncomfortable. And it means, I'm leveling up, and this has become actually pretty manageable. And so now my next level of growth is to push myself. And we're going to have new branding for it and everything. Oh!
Nice.
So anyways, well, that's super cool. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning into the Performance Mindset Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. Don't forget to check out my new book, From Perfect to Real, Ditch Perfection, Shift Your Mindset, and Thrive on Your Terms will be launching in spring 2025. Pre-orders are now available on www.amycalandrino.com. Let's all continue to go beyond in strengthening that performance mindset. This is Amy Calandrino signing off.